Welcome to the Be the Sun, Not the Salt podcast. Today, our guest is Marion Harris, the current CEO of Ford Credit. And Marion describes his leadership journey and the lessons he's learned over the many, many years in corporate America. And he's got a lot of nuggets that are really useful and practical for people to take away with. Connie, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think one of my most favorite nuggets was really just the idea of stealing shamelessly. I think the way he talked about stealing the good from all these different leaders, and I really like the way he talked about the fact that you can never smile too much.
Yeah, we covered this notion that your face is not your own as a leader. In other words, how you present yourself really affects other people. And he goes into detail on where and how he learned that. And it's a great insight. I would label this podcast one of his great insights, which is if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. However, since we recorded this podcast, Marion announced his retirement. I just want to make a shameless plug that he find a job, a gig, an opportunity, a position, so that he can exercise his leadership wisdom to influence more people because he's such a shining light. And I hope he finds something significant so other people can get the benefit of his leadership chops. Without further ado, here's Marion Harris. Marion, welcome to the Be the Sun, Not the Salt podcast.
Well, Harry, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here, and what an honor it is to have this conversation with you. And Connie too. This is really exciting. When you asked me to do this, I was like, of course I'll do this. That's
We
fun.
love that. We love that. Tell us
Yeah,
why.
this is
Why
great.
why did you get excited about doing it?
Yeah.
Well, something well, Harry said it. I met Harry. So I grew up as a finance guy in Ford. Finance types tend to be a little rough and gruff around the edges and are always beating people up for costs and everything else. I always try to keep the finance people away from real customers. Lo and behold, I actually made it to be CEO of Ford Credit. And I got introduced to the dealer body, and I got to stand on a stage in front of a few thousand people and give a speech to dealers. And lo and behold, I was introduced to Harry, who was my coach. And I was just so inspired by his approach and style and authenticity. And it was just somebody that I immediately connected with on a personal basis, and who helped me tremendously get prepared for my first time on stage speech. And so for that, I've always been thankful.
So I appreciate that. It's humbling and baffling to me because I don't think of myself as anything that special other than telling people to tell it straight, tell it without any fanfare, and want to practice that in my own life. Say what you mean what you say, don't say it mean. Don't try and be anything other than who you are. There's no technique to be an authentic, real, vulnerable person. You just be an authentic, real, vulnerable person. And if you find that cool and refreshing, I love that, because that's been our experience of you. We had one brief meeting with you prior to this, and you were delightful in that meeting. And we're excited about you're a corporate executive, you're a CEO. And for the people in the corporate world who live in that world, how can you teach them? How can you give them a nugget that you've learned along the way? Be the sun, not the salt. This little book has helped you, or these principles have helped you, that would really help all the people who live in that world to take a page from your experience. And I could do that. They listen to you, they listen to this podcast, and they go, that's some good stuff. That's going to help me from now on. So that share a nugget or two that speaks to you that you'd say, I think this would be helpful.
Yeah. So, you start talking about leadership. If you want to be a better leader, one thing I'll tell people is don't be ashamed. Steal good stuff from leaders, and just take it and copy it and use it as your own. And oh, by the way, steal stuff liberally from lots of different leaders. And when you observe someone in a meeting or an event or something, and you might say, wow, she did a really nice job, but I might try that, put that in my repertoire.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing too, that I think people are always surprised by, is that you can get really great leadership stuff, even from the worst of leaders.
The opposite, right?
I have found, over my career, I've had some really terrific leaders as supervisors or colleagues, and I've had some that are not so great. We all We all have. And I have found that even in those leaders that were not so great, there were things that they did that were
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
And so you have that, come back to the heliotropic piece, is to, even in the worst of leaders, there is goodness, and seek out that goodness and use it and take it and copy it.
One of those things you stole. Can you think about one or two of those things that you've stolen?
Yeah. I had a boss one time, and it wasn't my favorite supervisor over the course of my career. And I would prepare something and go and say, here's the issue. These are the problems, 1, 2, and 3. Here are 4 alternatives to address the problem. Some of the pros and cons, and I recommend alternative 1. And here's why. Why would you do it? I just like your concurrence. We move on. That person would say, it's really good. I appreciate all of that. And of course, I was in execution mode. All I wanted to do was get out of the room and get back to it. And that supervisor would say to me, let me think on it. Give me tonight and I'll talk to you in the morning. And what that person was doing, if you think about an iPad and you have, 10 different applications open on your iPad, you swipe up and you can see all the applications. That person would leave that issue I'll call it in RAM, to use an old, computer term. If they made a decision about that, one way or up or down, the program would close. But they wouldn't do that. They would purposely leave it open. And in the back of the mind, it would continue to process. And the next day, it'd come in with something deeper, more informative about that topic. And they would go home and spend time with the family, cook dinner, watch television, who knows. But it wasn't top of mind. But because they didn't close the program, it ran in memory. And not that they purposely thought about it, but it was just there because it was unclosed. And so I've taken that, and issues that, they don't even have to be big issues. I might have a point of view about it, but just let me think about it overnight.
I didn't know where you're going to go with this, and I love it. That's the one I can put in my pocket immediately, which is I don't need to be, because I have certainty disease and I want to know everything and decide stuff. And I can take that. I can say, let me think about it. I just love it. It's simple enough to take. And I thank you. Appreciate that. When you look, I know what it means because I wrote the book, but say a little bit about what heliotropic means, because you use the expression.
Yeah. In its most simplest form is to be attracted to the light. And we all know that light is goodness. It cleans, it heals, it promotes growth, it promotes health and wellness. And that's what great leaders do. You naturally tend towards those leaders, and you want to replicate and grow and become healthy from their strength.
I know that we know what this means, and I love hearing it from you. I want our audience and listeners to go, oh, say more. How do I be one of those?
Now, I probably gave you I'm sure there's a shorter definition in Webster, but that's what it means to me. But let me give you an example of what I really mean. Sometimes you can say, give me a definition of leadership.
Right.
And well, a leader does this and does this. And someone told me one time, and says, I really can't define what a good leader is, but I know one when I see them.
Right.
And that in and of itself is heliotropic.
You can feel it. There's something about
feel it.
Something about the person makes us want to follow them, want to be around them, want to be like them, want to be better in their presence. That's how I experience what you just said. I want to be like that person. I'm moved to be better.
Yeah. Or how you feel when you leave that person's office. There's ways to have any kind of meeting, a good meeting, an easy meeting, a hard meeting, and still walk out feeling good if you're a good leader.
Right. Earlier, we were talking about, we can learn from leaders, steal shamelessly. Marion, that's such a great one. I heard just recently, we both know him. Alan Mulally said on a LinkedIn post, your face is not your own. In other words, when you as a leader, you got to remember to smile, because you're not smiling for yourself, you're smiling for others. I absolutely love the expression. And it's so practical. It's such a good one. One of the things that heliotropic leaders do is smile, but Alan's point, I'm stealing it. You and I both know it's such a good thing to remember that you're smiling for others. You're not smiling for yourself.
Well, and we talked about that. It's
Yeah.
not just the smile. And I don't know if you do this, Marion, but when you're thinking, if you look up, it looks like it could be rolling your eyes or you're looking frustrated by something because you're thinking. I mean, that's what we're expressing to our teams or in a meeting as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, I tell people all the time, it's not what you say, it's how you make them feel.
Yeah.
And how you
Uh,
make them feel is probably one part what you said and 10 parts what you didn't say nonverbal,
Right.
meaning your nonverbal expressions are way more important than what you actually say because people know how you feel about them and people respond to how you feel.
Mhm.
And the nonverbal stuff is so critically important. And it starts with a simple smile.
Mhm.
Even when you're trying to have a difficult conversation with someone, smiling just makes it easier and it makes you more approachable, more vulnerable. It's just better.
Yep.
It's just better.
So look, we take this for granted. We feel like we know this. We feel like it's so damn obvious. Marion, I'm going to just remind people, you're a CEO of a huge financial organization in corporate America. And you're chuckling and smiling as we're saying this. People can't see it. And the truth is that as obvious as that is, it's not as obvious to everybody. I want you to just remind people that this is the simple and the powerful that we can do and use and be and show. So for the world that you live in and represent and have attained the highest level, it's so good that you can say it, and how you make people feel is the point, and your face is how it conveys it. So I'll stop talking.
Yeah. It's funny you're talking about smiling. A great leader, the person that hired me at Ford a long time ago was a guy named Dave Cosper.
Mhm.
And he was, he was a tall guy. He was probably, I don't know, 6'4", 6'5". I mean, he was really tall, maybe 6'6", who knows? But he would smile. It just seemed like it went from ear to ear. And he was such a great leader. It was one of these people, you're talking about wanting to follow. Everybody wanted to be like Dave
It's
Cosper
warm. Yeah.
and just warm. And he told me, because Ford can be a tough place. I mean, historically, Ford was a tough culture. That he got feedback one time, serious feedback from one of his managers that he smiled too much.
This is
It's
the point. So we're going to cure this disease.
Mhm.
We can learn from all kinds. We can learn what not to do. We can learn to take the good and the bad and avoid the ugly. Here's a question for you. You managed to not listen to bad advice, and you must have gotten plenty because, pick Dave Cosper as an example, or you. Plenty of people could have told you the same thing, and you might have said, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, I will. But you ignored it. I would so like for the rest of the world, the people who listen to this, how do you have the fortitude who taught you to be good, to ignore bad advice, and keep doing the right thing or the next right thing?
You have to tune in and listen. So Dave told me a number of times, he said, never stop being yourself. Every time you get promoted, you got to be yourself. Don't get too big for your pants. Don't lose who you are. Remember, and in my case, remember you're, a poor kid from Mississippi who's bootstrapped his way to where you are. So just remember that you put your pants on one leg at a time and never stop having fun. Never stop smiling. All this stuff. It's like, okay, that's great. But then he said, you've got to have fun at work. And if you're not having fun, you need to do something
Mhm.
else. And the only way to have fun is to smile and spread joy.
Oh,
And if you
man.
can't, if somebody tells you that you can't spread joy, then you're in the wrong place.
So for people who are listening to this is a corporate captain of industry, big shot CEO who's absolutely adamant about the importance of making people feel good and having fun at work and being yourself. Remember that. So there's a group of people who are, I'm sure, listening. Yeah, how do you hold people accountable and have high standards
Uh,
and and. Speak to
Yeah.
that, because this isn't just
Well, back to Alan Mullally. I
Mhm.
mean, he smiled from ear to ear, but you also knew he carried a big stick
Mhm.
and he meant business.
It's a
I
great
mean, Alan
example.
was right. I mean, Alan he is the embodiment of great leadership because he was somebody you wanted to follow who always smiled. He made you feel good. But at the same time, if you didn't deliver, it was okay. There was a different place for you. But I promise you, you delivered because
Sure.
you wanted
You wanted
to
to
deliver
impress
for
him.
Alan,
Yeah, absolutely. You wanted to follow.
right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
When you would walk into Alan's office or if you were coming up to him, he would welcome you. And I think guys like Dave did that. He was a big, imposing person, but you never felt that because
totally.
it was like somebody coming into his house. I know that's how I always look at it. You're invited coming into my house. I want you to feel good. I want to hand you a glass of water if that's what you need. I think that makes a big difference.
Dave Cosper always treated
Mhm.
me with such respect and kindness, and I was a little
Yeah.
person and he was a
But he
big
smiled
person,
at
and
everybody. You didn't need to know him. I didn't work with him, you
sure
know?
did.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
and how about the fact that he was told you smile too
Love
much?
that.
So what I want is for people to feel like the Allen way of leading, the John Wooden way of leading, the Marion Harris way of leading, that it's not someone else's, it's their own way. It was Dave Cosper telling you to be Marion Harris, not Alan Mullally. I
Right.
want people listening to be themselves in a way to do that, so that we all can aspire to be. I'm not going to be Alan Mullally. I'm going to be Harry Cohen, Connie
Yeah.
Fontaine, Marion Harris. I don't want this to be unicorn-esque, because he was unique. Was not past tense. He is.
Yeah.
He's a delightful human being. Let's give some props to the rest of humanity. In your world, you've seen plenty of people who are just doing a fabulous job because they're doing it this way. So I like steal shamelessly. That's good.
Yes. Deal shamelessly. Let's see here. I think I have this foundational belief that leadership begins with awareness and caring. First of all, you have to be aware of leadership and to do something about it. And then I know this may sound simple. You have to actually care enough
Mhm.
to make yourself better.
Oh man.
And so it really simple stuff. And then you can start building self-awareness, awareness of others and moving up the leadership pyramid. But once you become a little bit self-aware and you can start to understand things like, what shadow am I casting as a leader? Then ask yourself one really simple question. Would people go the extra mile for me?
Mhm.
And that will tell you. And think about some of the people that are in your life, about different leaders that you've had over your career. And you say, like Dave Cosper,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, if he asked me to do something, I'd drop everything
Mhm.
and
Well,
I'd run a
you
marathon
said the
for the
word
guy.
care, Marianne, and I
Yeah.
think, yes, you had to care to be the best you could be in terms of a leader, but showing people you care is what brings people to that level, I think, of wanting to please and to, follow you right into the fire. And I think that you hear that about Alan, you hear it about Dave, yourself, dealers talk about you that way too, not just people that work with you directly at Ford Credit. So caring is part of it.
Well, you said two things about caring. Connie, he said, you gotta care to want to be better
Right. Yep.
and show people that you
Right.
care. That's
That's
a
what I meant.
different
Yeah.
kind of
Yep.
caring. I
Absolutely.
mean, so beautiful. I mean, some people aren't interested, and that's okay. But we want to surround ourselves with and support and nurture, cultivate that. So, Marion, or keep giving us more of give us some more
Well,
of your best
that's
stuff.
just the start. So you have to be aware, you have to care. That starts the journey of leadership. So that's where you can start. It's the seed in the ground to become a heliotropic, right? And then beyond that, I have this other foundational belief that leadership is very much like faith or sports, that you can't get to a certain level of leadership and then say, okay, well, I'm a level 7 leader and just
Yeah.
stay there. You can't. You can't just stop. You're either improving or you're getting worse at any moment in time. And so that means to be a better leader, you have to practice every single day,
Love this, man.
every single day. And if you don't, you're going to get worse. And trust me, there are plenty of times in my life and career where, I unplug for a little bit and pay attention. Maybe I'm not my best self in a meeting, or I get a little gruff and I have to wind myself back in, go home and think about the day. Where was I rude? How did I maybe step on someone? And then what can I do as a leader? You can make mistakes as a leader.
Mhm.
Absolutely mistakes. Not saying you should, but you can make mistakes and you can make up for it like that.
I want to hear how you were, pick any time at all, where you were gruff, you went home, you thought about it, and you did the next right thing, or you apologized, or you cleaned it up. I really do. Because I can't picture you being that way. Now, I know we all are, and you're human, but I really would love for you to show our audience, the listeners, yeah, damn straight, here's one.
Yeah. And there are two types. You can either do it privately or publicly. And you need to remember, you need to be careful in which one you choose. It's one thing if you're in a one-on-one with somebody and you say something and you go home at night, well, that really wasn't right.
Yeah.
And best way to do it, I mean, it really makes an impression if you don't wait till the next day. And I know this is beyond business hour, but to call somebody at night, send them a text at night and just say, I've had time to think about this and what I did was wrong. And I apologize for that. And I hope that you'll forgive me. And and it goes a long way. The other thing too, is when you're a little gruff as a leader and you come back into the meeting and you're in that next committee meeting or something, and you say, I just want to take a moment to apologize to the team for my behavior in the last meeting. It was wrong. And I've thought about it. I appreciate the feedback and I hope to do better on this going forward. And just doing that, people, they'll give you twice the trust that they gave you before, just from a little humility.
Yep. It's hard
I
to
love
do.
that, man.
It is hard.
It is hard.
It's hard, but the fact that you said that it's important, you do that. Everybody wins, man. So again, thank you. You do get it. This is why we chose you. It's like, it's easy. We pick the people who are already believers, but I also said, and you just said it too, you want to be better. You're already good. Great. You want to be better at this.
So I'll give you a public one. I mean, you asked for a specific example. We'll give you a specific example because the players involved in this one. So let's see, I don't know, about a year and a half ago, we had a pretty major change in what we call our floor plan assistance program.
Yes.
And it was happening very quickly inside of Ford. There was a lot of momentum moving and we made some changes. We thought what we were doing was the right thing. And we made some really big decisions very quickly that missed some important constituents and was off the mark. And so I called a few of our dealer friends and had a little bit of a mea culpa. And then we laid out a very thoughtful plan from that. And then I met with a couple of very important dealers, Harry, pulled them into a room and had a little speech and said, I take responsibility for this. This was my decision and it was not fully baked. Let me give you the background on what we were trying to accomplish, why we were trying to accomplish it, and where we misstepped. We've listened to you, and I want to give you an outline of what we would like to do, and I would like your feedback to make this even better. I can tell you the next vote was 100-0. We got it across the line.
Sure.
Well, I heard about it. I heard about it. It was legendarily good. The screw up and the cleanup. The point of the story, and I just heard about it through other people who told me the story, was, man, did they screw up, and man, did Marion own it and clean it up quickly. It was beautiful. Seriously. And when I told a bunch of people that you were going to be on the podcast, they were like, oh no, he's a stand-up guy. He is a stand-up guy. That's what you want people to tell about a person. He's a stand-up person. To your point, a mistake, own it, do the next right thing, which you did. So, hats off to you. And let's all, I want to be the same person. I want to be the guy that as soon as I know that I made a boo-boo, I want to go clean it up quickly and move on. It does seem easy that it comes so easy to you. Do you struggle? Give us one you struggle with so that we can feel like, yeah, I struggle.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of internal stuff that happens that our dealer partners don't see, where sometimes I hold on to a dumb principle too long, and I just need to let it go. And I still struggle with it because I get a little fact about me here. I have a math degree, and not just a math degree. I have a
A math,
master's degree in math in something really like abstract, theoretical.
math nerd. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I get enthralled with the intellectual answer sometimes and miss the
Mhm.
practicality of something. And sometimes I need somebody to tell me, Gary, just get over it. Like, yeah, I know there's a more intellectually correct answer. Yeah, I know, but we're not. Okay,
I,
I will move on.
do you have someone at home to
Yeah.
Connie's question? Does your wife say,
I was gonna say,
Marion,
does the
get over
same
it?
Yes.
humility
Good.
Oh,
yeah.
yes, yes, yeah. Well, we've been married 30 years, and she's the love of my life, no doubt about it. And we're so different from each other, which she keeps me grounded. In the Myers-Briggs sense, she's literally completely opposite of me, which is terrific. I'm obsessed with her, and she's obsessed with me, and together we keep each
Perfect.
other grounded.
What would she say about you being
Again, you won the
heliotropic?
lottery.
Well, I think she might. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
she sees it. She sees me at home. So about heliotropic, maybe she doesn't see that side of
Yeah.
me, the leadership side of me. Is fine.
What's very wonderful about you, and again, I'm hoping our listeners can hear it and feel it in your stories, is that you are a real person trying to do your best and get better at helping other people get the job done. Yeah, you're a math nerd, but you really do care. And I think it's the caring that comes through, you know, that's what people can feel, I think, about you. That's not technique.
Can I tell you a
Yeah.
story about why or what that switch was for me? So, I told you I was a finance guy and top and graph. So I don't know, it was about 20 years ago. I was being groomed to do more at Ford. So I needed some further experience, and they made me the fleet controller. And you'll remember the old fleet days of Ford. And at that time, we, as a company, we were really not in a good position, losing money. And this was before Alan Mulally. And I got over to the fleet business and finance. When you're in finance, serving finance, you're all, to use the Myers-Briggs, you're using thinkers and logic people versus thinkers and logic people. So if you speak logic to people, it works out, right? Well, I got over there and there was a sales team, and they're a different personality type. And I banged my head against the wall trying to, like, I don't understand why you don't feel this way. We're losing billions of dollars and you got this and that. You need more profit, blah, 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 blah. And they were like, yeah, but our customers are not going to be happy with the price increase. Yeah, but we're going broke. You know? Anyway, I was failing as a controller because I couldn't move the needle in the organization to dramatically improve profits. So I had to do something different. Where my whole career I had counted on my intellectual abilities, I had to go teach myself how to deal with people, how to listen, how to understand,
Mhm.
start with self-awareness
Sure.
piece,
Yeah.
start caring about my own self, and then understanding other personality types and what signals they're sending, nonverbal signals, and how I can begin to speak to them through
Mhm.
their lenses in a way that can actually make things happen. I have this belief that diversity without leadership is just chaos, and diversity with leadership
Yeah,
is about the most powerful
absolutely.
force on earth. And so we take this and you'll
Mhm.
remember John Fleece
Good friend.
and we turned around the fleet business and significantly improved profitability to the tune of about $500 million. And it was all leadership. It was just how we dealt with people. And so for me, in my career forward, I've gone between intellectually stimulating jobs and these kind of operating jobs where you have to deal with a bunch of personality types. the intellectually stimulating jobs were always fun for me because math backgrounds, like solve problems. But frankly, the people problems are a lot harder than differential equations.
I'm wanting you, remember, I know the
Mhm.
players and I know it well. The audience has no clue what and how you use that insight to change the way you were, quote, working with, dealing with, interacting with the people to be so effective. I'd love for you to make it simple enough for our listeners to say, oh, I could do that. Now, that's not an easy task because there's lots of
Because first he
complexity,
cared,
but
and that was the thing
distill it.
you've said over, you cared
Number
enough
one,
to say, "Okay, I've gotta make a change. This isn't working the way
granted,
it's going so far."
I
And then what? Right.
it isn't working. I mean, the first thing, two things. One, to your point, Connie, he cared. Let's talk
Okay.
about him like he's not here.
Mhm.
He cared, and he realized self-awareness.
Mhm.
This ain't working. I can't just make them wrong and me right. I have to think about this and approach them differently in order to win-win. To take a chapter from our little book.
Win-win.
So I would so love for the people listening who are thinking that the problem is the others,
Mhm.
the problem is them. How did you change the way you dealt with them, in quotes, so that you could both win? If you could distill your style change.
I trying to make that simple is hard. Most at its most basic level, I had to start looking at the world through other people's
Yep.
lenses and not mine.
I'll take that. I'll,
And
I'll take that.
as you know from win-win, anything other than win-win is lose-lose. And there is no win-lose. It's only lose-lose. And so what I found, while I may have been correct on the financial piece, I was failing at the business piece.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing that, they made me, once I really opened myself to their perspective and their lens, wow, boy, it made me so
Mhm.
much better as a leader. And the empathy that I have for the customers and the organization and them as people. Again, it was diversity in the same direction, super powerful.
So the lesson for the listeners is, man, oh man, if I could listen more to the perspective of the others and see the world through their lens, it would be a lot better. Now, that's true for marriage. That's true for
Mhm.
leadership. That's true for parenting. That's true for life. I like that. It's a
And isn't
good
it even if you think
practice.
you're right? Even if you think you're right,
Oh
because
my
that's I think
God.
where a lot of us
Yeah.
get caught up, whether it's at
Oh,
work or at home. You knew the numbers, Marion. You knew you were right, but in the end, it didn't matter. And Harry and I had a discussion recently about a win-win. I knew I was right. I was going into a conversation, but I also knew I was going into a conversation with a very stubborn person, and I didn't understand their perspective. And that's what it took for me to do the same thing. And so, win-win and
yeah.
listening, Olympic listening from the book. Actually listening and hearing somebody's point of view, where you can do that.
What I enjoy from this podcast each time, I've said this a million times, which is I want to learn
Yeah.
to eat with every single guest. I
Mhm.
want to walk away with a nugget.
Yep.
This is another one, besides steal shamelessly and your face isn't your own. Um, that try and see from their point of view, really try and see, just see from their point of view. Of course, how are we going to make them feel? And making them wrong never feels good,
Yeah.
and I'm an expert at making people wrong. And it never feels good, to your point, Marion. So,
If you listen with empathy and ask questions of someone who
Mhm.
thinks differently than you, and you're really asking questions,
yeah,
and that person feels like they're
Mhm.
influencing you, they're actually
Mhm. Yeah.
they actually give you trust.
yeah, yeah,
And then once they give you trust, then together
Yep.
you can take that relationship to a place that's much more powerful than the
Right.
transaction
Break
you were
down that
trying to
wall,
accomplish.
changes everything.
Then it
Mhm.
becomes win-win.
that's it. And you aren't, you're not done learning and leading and wanting to get better in your role. And I like the fact you shared quite vulnerably you were quote unquote being groomed. Well, you got groomed and you attained the highest position, CEO. You don't get any bigger than that. And yet you're still hungry to learn. I want
Mhm.
people to hear that, which is one of the secrets to your success and or your wonderfulness. You ain't done learning,
I'm
you know.
curious about something. We know that we talked about it. We don't own our face anymore, especially when you're a leader at your level. And so at work, we have a tendency to be much more conscious of that. How about out in the world, outside of the walls of Ford? How do you feel do you make people feel the same way? Is it an effort? Is it a practice? Is it hard?
It is a bit hard. My natural tendencies was to be an extrovert. And as I've gotten older, I've
Mhm.
become a little more introverted. And when you're in a role like this and you have to be
Yeah.
on all day, you find that sometimes you go home and
Mhm.
just want to relax a little bit. But I tend not to go out a lot to dinners and things like that because I just need a little bit of time. Maybe it's because I'm
Yeah.
old. I need a little
It's because
rest
you
these
have to do
days.
a lot of things. Yeah.
But yeah,
I think that that insight is important, Connie, to the question, which is because he knows he's a leader and he knows that he has to be
Mhm.
on for the reasons that we just articulated, and you need to recharge your battery. So you take care of yourself deliberately to say, I need to have some quiet time to not necessarily be on. I think it's a really
Yep,
thoughtful way to be heliotropic, to pour sun on your own
for
leaves
sure.
and take care of yourself and nurture yourself and take care of yourself. I'm curious for people who think that this is soft stuff. Help them to see that as
hey,
simple as this is, it's both simple and
yeah.
hard, but the payoff is worth it.
eh,
Make the case.
Okay, you're right. This sounds all soft, doesn't it? I mean, we're talking about caring and vulnerability, relationships, self confidence, self awareness. But make no mistake, this is all about leadership, but leadership is all about delivering results, bar none. That's why we're here. This is about having a vision, delivering results, taking action, inspiring people, and making stuff happen. But the way to do that is the
Mhm.
soft stuff.
Yeah.
The soft stuff will accelerate that so far because it creates that army of people that want to follow you, that want to deliver for the organization because they know that you care about
Yeah.
it. And it's not hard. It's really not hard. It it's about it's the soft stuff and the hard stuff. But you
Mhm.
cannot miss the soft stuff. It is necessary stuff to be a
Beautiful.
good leader.
So, I mean, I hope that our listeners pass this on, take a page from your book, steal shamelessly your point, take something and use it and make it their own. Your point is a really good one. The soft stuff is hard, but it's what we need. And you get the final word, Marion. This is, the entire world. We got 4 billion people that are listening to this podcast. What else do you want to tell
Well, one of the tough things is this is probably more towards the younger crowd. Okay.
them? Good.
So you finally wake up one day and you say, I want to be a leader and I'm going to start. Okay. I need to be
Mhm.
awareness and caring. And I'm going to start working on the self-confidence and I'm going to start practicing leadership skills. And you're at a junior level in your career. And then you bounce into this isn't all about you. You also have to deal with your
Mhm.
organizations too. Then you come along and you bounce into the leadership environment where you are. It could be, if you work for a company, it could be a leadership team within the company or inside of a dealership or inside of a
Mhm.
department store, wherever you are. And that leadership environment can either accelerate you or shut you down. And think about the times in your life, Harry, Connie, where you were trying to really do good and some boss said, well, why would you do that? That's a dumb idea.
Mhm.
And you just
Yep.
completely deflated, you know? And you have to get yourself back up, get that natural bias, for leadership,
Mhm.
you do it again and again. You know, kind of shake your boots off, you keep going after it, and just know that careers are long. People come and go, and you're gonna succeed. That the light will always prevail, and you have to be the sun,
Ooh,
not the salt.
damn. Damn, we did not rehearse this.
No.
We have no, we have,
No, but I love that because I
okay.
would put comma and be your own self, because I think that's what I
Yeah.
love the most is I do
Yeah,
see you are you and you're doing it your
Yeah.
way and you're successful.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a great
Yeah.
message for people, no matter what stage of the career they're in, for sure.
And I hope people listen to you because
Mhm.
of who you are, to Connie's point, because he's such a good dude, or because you're successful, a captain of industry, a CEO, and he
We're
obviously
both.
did something right.
We're both.
Whatever they want to listen to, but
Yep.
we're both. Thank you. Good point. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Man, we get total credit, Connie, for
Oh, good
choosing
job.
him.
Well, I get total satisfaction from spending an hour with you.
Thank you so much, Marion. All right, we'll do the dinner soon, and we will stay in touch and keep finding a way to make, chapter 1 do all the good we can come
Every
to
day.
fruition.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your leadership on this. I can't wait to see all the podcasts. I think it's
too.
going to be great.
too.
To see, sounds like you've got some really great, inspiring leaders, and I look forward to learning from all of them as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Marion.
It really comes down to Marion.
Yeah.
You've left us with a lot of great nuggets. You've left us with big ones, small ones, and we really appreciate your time today.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
what you're doing. I think
Thanks
it's
for being
terrific.
part of it.
Thank you so much, Marion.
Good to
Thank
see you.
guys.
Thank you very much, Marion.
All right.
Bye. You
Bye-bye.
too.
Take care, everyone.
Go
Thanks.
Geek
This
of
was
Stress.
fun.
Bye.
Totally.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.
At Be the Sun, Not the Salt, our mission is to spread this message and make the world a better place. In our podcast, we hope to share stories that nudge each one of us to be our best self. If you heard something today that nudged you, inspired you, we'd love to hear from you. Please email us at stories@bethesunnotthesalt.com. And who knows, we may feature you on an upcoming episode.